Hi, I'm Bill Myers, and this is another one of my video tips of the week. In this week's video tip, I'm going to show you how to make a billboard banner like one you see on the screen here that you can use on your video productions or on your ebooks or other things that you create for the web or for digital publishing. This is pretty easy to do, and to do this, I'm going to use Photoshop elements and just 2 graphic images. Like I said, it's pretty easy to do, so let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is to find the background image, and you see here I have a sunburst background image. And there are many places on the web that you can find these background images, but I'll show you where I got this one. I went to a website called WallpaperWise, and then I did a search for sunburst. And the search results show me a number of different sunbursts. And if I find one I like, all I have to do is click on it, and it shows me what that sunburst looks like, and it also shows me the formats that it's in. Typically, you want to download the highest resolution that's available, and since I'm doing a widescreen, I'm going to go for the widescreen version here, and I'm just going to click that. It takes me to the screen where the sunburst is, and then to download it, I right-click and choose Save Images As, and that's saved on my computer. After you save it, you want to definitely remember where it is, and then you want to go back to your Photoshop Elements. And here's the image right here. What I'm going to do in Photoshop Elements is click File, New, Blank File, and let's just say we're going to do this for video because we are going to use a preset, the Film and Video preset. And from our film and video presets, we have a number of options. We have everything from NTSC DV to HDV 720 to 1080p. For this project, I'm just going to choose HDV 720p. And that's 1280 by 720. So I click OK. And there's the image that we have. Now, the first thing I want to do is drag our starburst up onto that. And the way this works in Photoshop Elements is if you have images open down here, you can just drag them on top of other images. In my example here, you notice I have the starburst so that the burst happens right over the shoulder of the person who's on the image. So I'm going to move this starburst over to about there. I can move this around later on, but that's where I want to put it. And while I've got it there, I think I want to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to click Layer, and then New Adjustment Layer, and then Brightness and Contrast. And then click OK. And then here I can push the brightness of that up so I get a really nice bright look. I almost want it to wash out. Now I can change the contrast a little bit if I like, make it wash a little bit more. Now that we've done that, the next thing we want to do is to pick the person that's going to go right there. Now you notice on my example here that I have me right there, and that's what we want to do over here with our image. To do that, I've loaded a photo of myself. This typically will be the talent who's either written the book or is on the video. You want to open that photo, and you want to cut the photo out from the background. And to do that, you select the Quick Selection tool, and you just put the Quick Selection tool over the image that you want to cut. Then once you have them, you can use the minus here to get rid of the ones that you didn't want, the part that you didn't want. Then once you have your image selected, you'll want to click Edit and Copy, and that's going to copy the selected image there. And then click File, and then New, and then Image from Clipboard. And that creates the image from the clipboard of the person you've selected. Now, there are a couple of little areas here you probably want to clean up. And you can do that with either the selection tool or the eraser. I'm going to use a selection tool to try to get that right there. I've got that. Now that it's selected, I just press Delete to remove it. That looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the image where we put our starburst. And just like before, what I can do is drag this image right onto the screen and put that person wherever I need them. In this case, I want them about right there, and I'm going to resize that so it fills the screen a little bit better. Right there. I like that, so I click OK. Now that's about half of what we need to do to create this image. Now we're going to do next is to go in and add our titles. But before you do that, you may want to look at the person here to see if they look as good as you want. Now if you haven't adjusted them elsewhere, you can go in and adjust them now. And the way you would do that is you layer and New Adjustment Layer, and you can do levels or brightness. We're going to just do brightness and contrast on this one and click OK. We're going to push the brightness of that person up a little bit. Notice how that looks a lot better already. We may want to push the contrast a little bit. I think it looks pretty good right there. Now we're going to go in and add the titles like we have over here in our example where it says The Adventures of. And to do that, we just select our text tool. And once our text tool is selected, we select the font. And in this case, I used a SF Fedora font. That's a free font that you can download from the web. And I'm going to choose the color, which is a bright yellow. And now that the color is chosen, I can put in the name of the person here. And you can see that's way too large, so what we'll do is that we will highlight that. We'll change the font size down to something a little bit more reasonable. Let's go down to about 172 and see what happens there. Now you can see the spacing is off, and we're going to fix all that. I think that font needs to be just a little bit larger, so we'll go to 196. Now, if your fonts don't go that high, you can just type in the font size that you want. That's 196. And then over here where we have our auto, that has to do with the interline spacing, we're going to type in, we want these a little bit tighter than 196, so we'll type in 176. I'm just making these numbers up out of the air just to see what looks better. 186 may look better. And that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and put our border and shadow. The way we do that is we select the font, we click Layer, choose Layer Style, click Style Settings, and then while we're looking at it, we choose Drop Shadow. And then on Drop Shadow, we can choose the opacity, which is how dark the shadow is. I'm going to push that up. And then we're going to choose the distance, gives us a nice dark shadow. And then I'm going to choose Stroke, which gives me an outline. And I might push the stroke up another for us a darker stroke like that. And then click OK. And then I might want to rotate that just a little bit. And to do that, I move my mouse over until I get a rotation tool on one of the corners and rotate it. And then maybe move it down this way just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Now, if I want to make that font size larger, I can do that just by dragging. Again, this is a matter of just of taste and playing with it. Now, I also have a smaller text across the top that says The Adventures of. Let's go ahead and put that there. We're going to use the same font, SF Fedora. We're going to change the font size. Let's go for about 132 on this. And our spacing, we'll select Auto. And what we'll do is we'll type in The Adventures of. And we can see that that font is too large. So we reduce it a little bit more. And just like we did before, what we're going to do is select our font here. We're going to click Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. We're going to put a drop shadow on it. We're going to push the opacity of the drop shadow up. We're going to put a stroke, which is a text around it. We're going to click OK. We're going to move the font over here. We also want that on an angle as we had before, so we grab a corner, we rotate it, and position it the way we want. Now in my example, we'll go back to look at the example over here. You notice I also put some red across the bottom. Now this, if it's a video, you can do that. If it's a book, you might want to put the subtitle back here. But to put that red across the bottom, if you wanted to do that, all you do is go over to your Shapes tool, and then from the Shapes tool, you select the shape that you want, which is this solid box right here. We make sure that the red color is selected, and we just draw it across the screen. And once we have it drawn across the screen, we can go in and type our text just like we did before. Now, if I'm looking at this, I can see that this person should be higher up on the screen. And to do that, we're just going to select that person that we put there. And you notice that we can move them after we've placed them. And that's the way we do it. So it only took a couple of minutes to create this using just those two elements. Now, I'll show you something else. When I created this first one, what I wanted to do is I wanted to try different backgrounds. So to do that, what I did was I pulled in another background first. And this is the background I pulled in first. Using layers, you can pull in a number of different backgrounds and test to see which one works best. You can turn the layers on and off to see what looks best. So this is what we just created. And let's view it full screen so it looks better. And you can see it actually looks pretty good. Anyway, this is the way Photoshop Elements works. Everything is layers. You can move any element around. You can resize elements. You can change your background. You can float your foreground images. You can put them any way you want. And it's really nice to know how to do this because there may be times you need to create a billboard for your videos that you're working on or for any other project you happen to be working on. In any case, I'm Bill Myers. This has been another one of my video tips of the week. You can find more like this at www.bmyers.com.